Straight to Los Angeles now, where California Senator Alex Padilla talking to reporters after he was forcibly removed from a press conference with DHS Secretary Kristi Noem. Let's listen in.
From federal officials as part of my responsibility as a senator to provide oversight and accountability. While I was waiting for the briefing with General Guillot, I learned that Secretary Noem was having a press conference a couple of doors down the hall. Since the beginning of the year, but especially over the course of recent weeks, several of my colleagues have been asking the Department of Homeland Security for more information and more answers on their increasingly extreme immigration enforcement actions. And we've gotten little to no information in response to our inquiries. And so I came to the press conference to hear what she had to say, to see if I could learn any new additional information. And at one point, I had a question. And let me emphasize, just as we've emphasized the right for people to peacefully protest and to stand up for their First Amendment rights, for our fundamental rights. I was there peacefully. At one point, I had a question. And so I began to ask a question. I was almost immediately forcibly removed from the room. I was forced to the ground, and I was handcuffed. I was not arrested. I was not detained. I will say this. If this is how this administration responds to a senator with a question, if this is how the Department of Homeland Security responds to a senator with a question, you can only imagine what they're doing to farm workers, to cooks, to day laborers out in the Los Angeles community and throughout California and throughout the country. We will hold this administration accountable. And we'll have more to say. We'll have more to say in the coming days. Let me say just briefly in Spanish as well. Soy el senador Alex Padilla y estuve aquí porque tuve una junta para recibir más información de los representantes de la administración.
All right, you're watching a live press conference there with California Senator Alex Padilla. He was addressing the situation in that press conference with Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem in Los Angeles. She was talking about the police presence, the military presence there on the streets as immigration raids are going to continue on behalf of ICE. And the senator was saying that he was actually trying to get her attention to talk to her. It got hostile. He was taken out of the room, but he is making it very clear he was not arrested, he was not detained, that he and the DHS secretary did have a conversation after that moment that clearly made good TV, but it looks like it didn't go down exactly how folks have been portraying it. Let's bring in our Matt Rivers and also our Jacqueline Lee, both in Los Angeles right now. Jacqueline, let's start with you. So really just setting the record straight. We've now heard from both sides. The secretary said that she did have a chat with the senator after that had happened, and he's basically confirming that and saying that he was not arrested and not detained.
Yeah, absolutely, Kira. And, we also heard from Tricia McLaughlin, the Assistant Secretary of Public Affairs, who said that Senator Padilla chose disrespectful political theater and interrupted a live press conference without identifying himself or having his Senate security pin on as he lunged towards Secretary Noem. Obviously, tensions are really high, Kira, and what we're seeing play out is basically federal power versus state power. And so we're seeing local and state politicians say, we never asked for the federal government to intervene. We did not ask for these federal troops to come in, and that Los Angeles police had control of the situation. We've heard this from Governor Gavin Newsom, who said that he believes the federal troops as well as the Marines will actually exacerbate the situation. Now, I don't know if you can hear it, but more protesters are starting to arrive here in front of these federal buildings. The Marines could be deployed here to take over control of the federal buildings just to protect it as soon as tonight, Kira, but within the next 48 hours. And they've been undergoing training for civil unrest over the last few days. Kira.
All right, Jacqueline, thanks. And sorry, Louis, did you tell me that we did have Matt Rivers? Got it. Okay. So, Jacqueline, apparently Matt Rivers is conducting some interviews right now there on assignment also. Okay. Looks like Senator Alex Padilla is speaking in English. Once again, we're going to dip back into his live press conference. Stay with me, Jacqueline.
Saturday, I encourage everybody to please peacefully protest, just like I was calmly and peacefully listening in that press conference and attempting to ask a question. No violence, no vandalism. Please continue peacefully protesting, and that's all I will have to say today. Thank you very much.
Can you give us any insight what you and the secretary said afterwards?
Why did you come in and do that? Why did you disrupt it?
Christine, I don't know if you guys can hear me, but as you see.
All right. California Senator Alex Padilla just calling for calm, encouraging folks to still protest what's happening there on the streets of Los Angeles. Actually, we can see our Matt Rivers right there as well, too, so that's good. He might try and get some independent sound there with the senator, but just calling for peaceful protests. He's asking folks not to carry out vandalism, not to loot the local businesses, to peacefully protest and help quell the situations there on the street. And Jacqueline, as we've seen, it's not just protests that are popping up there in Los Angeles, but also in other parts of the country, from here in our nation's capital to Nebraska.
Oh, absolutely, Kira. We've seen it play out all across the country because ICE raids are being ramped up all across the country. That's what we've heard from the Trump administration, is that they are not going to be holding back. And the Trump administration says they want to get criminals out of the country, which is why they're having this immigration crackdown. And it's something that President Trump did run his presidential campaign on. But we're seeing videos come out from cities like Omaha, Nebraska, as you mentioned, where there were people working who were then taken out by ICE agents. And also we've seen Philadelphia starting to ramp up to they're expecting more protests. We've seen this over in Minneapolis as well. And what local authorities are saying is that it is within their right to protest, but to do so peacefully. Kira.
All right, Jacqueline. So our Matt Rivers there, as you saw, was there at the press conference, Matt, with the Senator Alex Padilla from California. As it just wrapped up, we noticed you tried to chase him down there for a little independent sound. Were you able to catch up with him? What did he tell you? What we were just reporting a moment ago was that he's just asking for protesters to continue on with what they're doing, but do it peacefully and not to carry out vandalism, looting, but to peacefully protest. Were you able to catch up with him there?
Yeah, no, the senator didn't stop to take questions. As you would imagine, this became a bit of a media circus here, and so the senator choosing to not take questions instead, even though he did say when he was speaking in Spanish at the end, he said, "I'm about to take some questions." Then everyone started asking him some questions, and so he just decided to leave. I think the takeaway from what he's saying there, though, is his argument is that he was already in the federal building. He was at another meeting. He heard about this press conference that Kristi Noem was giving a few doors down, and so he decided to come into the room, much to the surprise of everybody in there. His argument is that he was trying to ask a question. He said calmly, coolly, and as soon as he started asking a question, he was forcibly removed, and he questioned the use of force against him. He said he was never detained. He said he was never arrested, but he did say he was handcuffed. He also said he was able to speak to the DHS secretary, which she herself actually told us that as well. So I think his point of view here is that he was treated in a way that is not only not befitting of a U.S. senator, but isn't befitting of anyone who wants to ask questions of their government. Of course, the other side of this, of course, is what you're going to hear from the DHS secretary. You're going to hear it from the Trump administration that he did not identify himself before he started to ask the question, that he took a couple steps toward the DHS secretary, and this was simply the protective detail of the secretary doing their job. So those are the two sides that you're going to get in all of this. But clearly, Senator Padilla is going to use this as a political moment to illustrate what he says is the treatment of everyone by DHS. He says if they can do this to a sitting U.S. senator, imagine what they do to the cooks and the farm workers that they're detaining. On the flip side, you're going to hear DHS say this is a sitting senator that was entirely out of line and shouldn't have done what he did.
Got it. And so, Matt, just we've been talking a lot to Jacqueline there on the ground, who's been with protesters. You have been there as well, talking to protesters on the ground. And we want to keep clarifying that what's happening in Los Angeles is not throughout the entire city of Los Angeles. It is happening in just certain parts of the city. Put into perspective what today has been like. Do you get a sense that things are calming down, remaining the same? We know that those ICE raids are going to continue, are continuing. How do you feel just about the nature of what we've been seeing over the last week? Is it calming down?
Well, I think it's compared to the first few days, there's no question that it is. And I think it's important to remember, as you're pointing out here, Kira, that Los Angeles is an enormous place, and that what happens in a 10 square block radius in downtown is not indicative of what's happening in the rest of the city. I mean, this, too, is Los Angeles. This, too, is a federal building. There are no protesters here. So that gives you a sense of that it is not everywhere. The city is not burning. The city is not totally out of control, like you're hearing some in the administration make that argument. Some people actually brought that up to the DHS secretary, saying all of Los Angeles is clearly not burning, to which she kind of pivoted and said, well, don't you want your downtown to be beautiful? Don't you want there to be order in every part of your city? So that's the pivot that the administration is making, that, they're saying their use of force here is justified because of the violence and because of the out of control actions of certain protesters that we, quite frankly, have seen during these protests. But I think, as always, there's nuance in all of this. The city of Los Angeles largely is operating as normal. There's that curfew in place, certain blocks downtown. There's no question that part of town has been disrupted. There's no question there was violence, that there was chaos, that it wasn't okay. There's no question that that happened too. But I think we have to keep all of this context in mind, as you say, Kira, when we're talking about this situation as a whole.
Point well made. Matt Rivers, Jacqueline Lee, thank you both so much.